Reaction? Hello, my name is Forleasadon Harper. I am CEO of Xavier's Treat. Welcome to our channel. This channel will be about us. The us is the Harper family. So you'll get to meet hopefully all of the Harper tribe. But today we will talk about Forleasadon. So each week, each video in the beginning will be about each one of us, and then after that, you'll see us collectively, and you will also have videos with us cooking and sharing about us, the tribe, the Harpers. So, I guess to get started, I could talk a little bit about me. I am a native of Newark, New Jersey, born and raised. Um, yeah. No, we currently live in Michigan. We've lived in North Carolina. I've owned a daycare business. Prior to that, I had a business with a friend of mine. We did a lot of flea marketing and standing on the corner selling our wares and different functions. I believe that first business was called Primary Colors. Then my second business was Tiny Heaven, and I had that business for 8 years. Yeah, 8 years. And now I am embarking on Xavier's Treats. Xavier's Treats encompasses three components. It is my love of baking and cooking. I love to bake and cook. Also, my African wares. You will see, if my daughter panned around real quick, you'll see some little statues that I sell. This is my guest room / office. I'm trying to convert over into an office, so we're just getting started. So you see my friend here because when I sell my wares, I will put her on there because I was the mannequin until she came. And so I'll be selling my wares, which are African inspired. Clothing, jewelry, statues, fabrics. I'm all about the blackness. And then my new coming into understanding of gardening. We had a garden and we gardened in the lot next door to me. So I didn't realize I was considered an urban gardener. But I tended something here, and that's what I would be considered an urban gardener. So I've started my little greenhouse, and you'll see a lot. Once we get out in the garden, you'll see us out there working, tilling the soil, planting the seeds, and killing the weeds, and all those things. So those are the three components. It's my wares, my retail, selling my African wares, my baked goods. I do cook and sell. I do functions. I cater. All those things I do as well. And my love for cooking. And then my gardening. And I will be selling my produce that comes, my yield from the garden. I will be selling that as well. And also on this channel, we're going to talk about adoption, and we're going to talk about adoption a lot because that is part of our story. Part of our journey is me as a single woman adopting. I adopted as a single woman. Prior to adopting, I never wanted kids. So let's be clear. I never wanted to be a mother. My dream growing up was that I was going to have a husband, I was going to be a teacher, and I was going to drive a Volvo car. Those were my dreams, and lived in the house with my husband. No kids, no dogs, no pets, just my husband and I. And I think the irony of this is that I have the three people, my tribe. We live in the house, and I don't drive because I can't stand driving now. I don't like driving any longer, so I think that's funny. So our journey is very interesting. So that's why you'll see that it's Xavier's treating us, because we're going to talk about our journey as me, an adoptive parent, and my children as adoptive kids. So I don't call them my adoptive kids. Those are my kids. They all are mine. And earlier we were on Facebook. I have a Facebook. We go Facebook Live, and I just shared a little this morning about them my people. All three of them. So, how did I come into adopting? I'm answering these as if someone's asking me a question, but she's not. And so my camera person is my daughter, Deja Harper. You'll hear her story. She will share a lot about herself. But today we're going to talk about Forleasadon. And so when I was around 31, I became pregnant. And I decided I wanted to keep my son. So I ended up carrying until I was 6 months and I went into labor. So he was 26 weeks. He lived 1 week and he transitioned. And his name was Xavier. So my business is Xavier's Treat because I have my tribe, but I always want to remember that he started the tribe. And so it was not a smooth transitioning, um, delivering. It was a lot that happened. I almost transitioned myself. And I decided when I came home after he had passed away, which was surreal because, you have a baby. And when you are discharged, because I was in the hospital for a whole week, other women were leaving with babies. I was pushing out, and my dear friend Avers Daniels, she picked me up from the hospital. And it was so strange being wheeled out, and I didn't have a baby to wheel out because my baby was still upstairs in the NICU. So that was very interesting. All that week was very going back and forth to the hospital because he was in crisis. And so when he finally transitioned and I ended up having to go back in the hospital and have an emergency surgery, I was home on the sofa. And an adoption fair came on HBO. And as I was laying there, I was like, maybe I can do that. And my mom had a friend. He had a home for boys. And I called him. And I was like, listen, I saw this adoption fair on HBO. I think I want to do that. And he was like, well, you've just gone through a lot. I had just been through a lot. Mind you, I hadn't even begun to grieve yet. I was just like, oh, I'm going to do this. And so he said, I don't think you should adopt. I think you should foster first. And I'm like, what? No, that's not what I want to do. And he's like, yeah, I think that you should see if you want to be a mom first. And I was like, oh, okay. So he gave me the number and I reached out to this place called Babyland. And it was an organization in Newark, New Jersey. And I reached out to them and it was like, oh, you can come tonight to a class. And I'm like, no, not tonight, but I can come your next class. And so the next class I attended. And so it was like an orientation about becoming a foster parent. And so, they give you the paperwork and who are the other people who live in your house. If they're adults, they have to be fingerprinted. And so I lived at the time with my mom and my sister. And so my mother, she came with me to the next class so that she can be fingerprinted. And my sister was a minor, so they didn't have to worry about her. And I started going through my classes. And some of the things I heard the people ask, like, what do you feed the kids? And I was sitting there like, what? I thought they would just eat what you eat. But I didn't understand at that time the dynamic of fostering. Because mind you, I still had not grieved yet. And I was already embarking on a journey to become a foster parent. And I had not grieved the fact that I had just lost a child because I was angry. And so I just pushed those feelings to the side. And I just went through my little classes. I think it was like either 6 or 8 weeks class. They did the background check, came and did a home inspection, made sure you had everything. And yeah, I ended up becoming a foster mom. And my first child, she was the cutest little chocolate little thing. And I just dressed her in the cutest little clothes. And when she left, I realized how much your heart can get wrapped up into fostering a kid because I fostered with my whole heart. Again, still not grieving. And I'm going to continue that through this journey until when I realized I hadn't grieved and how many years it was until I felt like myself. So that'll be a long time from now until I get to that story. And so I fostered 18 kids prior to the call for the twins. So some would stay a night, some would stay 3 months, some would stay 6 months, but it was a revolving door. And you just begin to love these little kids. And my mother, excuse me, and my sister was such a big help to me. And in the interim of that, I was doing daycare. I had a family daycare. So I was fostering, and then I have my own business. So it was very interesting how much my family was a support for me in both those things. So my sister would work for me and my mom would help and she would go to work, and it was such a blessing to have that. When I received the call for the twins and they said two babies, I said, two babies? I was just used to, I had had more than one kid in the house at a time, but it might have been a infant and an older kid, but I had never had two infants in the house at the same time. So when they called and they were premature, and so they said the boy is going to come home because my twins are boy and girl, and they said he's going to come home first and then she's going to come home. And I said, okay. They said because her weight wasn't up. But when they walked in the door, they had two car seats with two little birds in them because they were so tiny, they were only half the car seat. And that began my journey as being Deja and Devin's mother. That was not the name they were given at birth, but when I adopted them, I changed their names and I also gave them my last name. It took what? It was Dylan. They are like a year and a half older than Dylan. So it was me getting used to having two babies. And in the house we lived in at the time, it was a one family house, but I stayed on the top floor. And so I had to get a refrigerator up there. I had a crib upstairs and a crib downstairs because I had two babies. And it was just very interesting mothering them. Devin has been the sickliest of the two. Deja was the smallest of the two babies, but Devin was the sicklier of the two babies. And 3 days after we came home, they came home from the hospital. I was back in the emergency room because he was vomiting, but it was projecting. It was like it would project across the room. It could hit the wall, and he would just vomit and vomit. And so his projectile was black. So I had to go and I sat in the emergency room with this little baby. I really still didn't even know yet. And for them to tell me he would have to go see a specialist. And so for the first year of Devin's life, we were in and out of the specialist because they didn't know what was wrong with him. And I attribute it to now when I look back because they didn't cook in the oven. You know, when they don't cook fully in the oven, meaning 9 months, they were 6 months, and they have to give them the steroids to get the lung to develop quickly because they are so premature. They were only in the NICU 3 weeks. Most babies who are born that early, they normally stay until the time that they are supposed to come home. They came home in 3 weeks. So, a lot of developmental things happened during that time. Also, both of them, they were twins. They were premature because they were drug exposed. So their biological mother had cocaine in her system when she gave birth, and that's what sent her into labor early. So I mention that because a lot of our trials with learning disabilities and behavior issues and mental health, which is a pre-existing condition, you'll learn about that later on from us when we talk about mental health, stems from the maternal. And because the paternal, I didn't receive much information on the paternal, but the maternal, there was a lot. There's mental illness, drug abuse, domestic violence, a lot of that in the mother's history. So, being their mom for the first year and a half, because they were like the best little babies. They were so quiet. They were quiet up until they were like 3 years old. That little one downstairs was never quiet, and he's still not quiet right now. But Deja and Devin, they slept in the, even though I had two cribs, they slept in the crib together because they were so little and because they were twins. I wanted to keep them together. And just watching them, I think they were a year and they still weren't walking. They had just filled up the car seat, and they were just quiet, really good babies. Whew. I can't say that now, but I'm just saying then. So let's go over to a year and a half. So I'm still fostering because they were still in the beginning. So they were born in July. Their projected date of birth was October. So from October until December of 2001, they still went on what was considered home visits because they were still foster. They were not my adopted children yet. They were still foster children. So their mom still would go visit with them. But what they observed is that the boy, in his car seat, she would take him and shove him over into a corner, and she would undress the little girl because I would send a diaper bag with extra clothes because Devin still vomited a lot. So if he ate, he still would bring it back up because he had reflux. That's what we learned. He had reflux. And so I would keep like 10 bibs, and then I would have a Ziploc bag for the dirty bibs because that's how he was going through bibs. And she would never touch him. She would only touch the girl. But let me go back. When they were in the NICU, she only touched the girl because initially they were not supposed to be in foster care. They were supposed to go home with their mother. And the nurses observing her never touching or going near the boy. So they were concerned that there would be a problem. So that's how they ended up in foster care, because the nurses were concerned that if she took both babies home, that she would neglect the boy, and because she only loved on the girl. So I saw that later on, because even though my daughter did not realize it, she remembered, I guess, in her being, in her cells, that her mother bonded with her, where he gravitated to me early on. Soon as he came in and holding him, and he gravitated, and him and I bonded quickly. Not with the girl. Not with Deja. Deja wasn't having no parts of it because she had already bonded with her biological mother. And so when I would hold her, she never was like that loving type child. Still right now, today, at 18, never really was bonded with me. But my mother would hold her, and she was calm. And it went like that until my mother transitioned. So she always had that kindred spirit for my mom, but never gravitated to me, and I was okay with that, long as she was fine with someone that was in the house. And so we had our little journey, just the two of them, going around carrying two little car seats and just being a little family. And by the time Dylan came along, Deja, Devin, and I were no longer living with my mom and sister. I had moved into an apartment, and it was just us. And I was still fostering, so I would still have kids come in and out. And then they called, and they said, Miss Harper, we have this little boy, and he is in the border baby unit. And he was a full-term baby. He wasn't a premature. And we would like for you to take him. And I was like, I already had two babies. Because at this point, they were a year and a half. And he came along in February, the year before they turned 2. And I was like, I don't know. That's a lot for one person to be having 3 little people. And Deja and Devin had just started walking. They still weren't talking. They would make sounds, but they weren't developed like they were. And I'm like, I don't know. I'll have to go see. And so I go to the hospital, the same hospital Deja and Devin were born in, UMD&J, in the city of Newark. And I go to the border baby unit, and the nurse asked me, could I wait? So I wait outside because they were discharging the baby. She said, well, now what baby you here to see? I said, what his old name used to be, his birth name. And so she says, oh, he's right over there in the crib. And I said, okay. She said, you can go look, because mind you, I didn't know if I was taking him home yet. I was just going to check this little fella out. And so I go and I look, and she says, I go back to the nurse, and I'm like, that's not the baby I came here for. And she was like, oh yeah, he's in there. I'm like, I go back and I look in the crib again, and I go back and say, I don't think that's the baby they sent me for. And she was like, ma'am, what is the problem? I'm like, because that's an Asian little boy. And she was like, oh my God, that's not the baby you came for. I was like, no ma'am, that is not the baby I came for. I came for a little black boy. And so there were grandmothers in the room, and they come in and they sit and they hold and they rock babies. And one of the ladies, she had him and she was rocking him. And so when I saw him, he was just a little fat little ball. And I was like, okay, I'll take him. And so I brought him home without telling anyone. Like, my family didn't know I had him. My friends didn't know I had him. Because I think I was a little ashamed to say that I had another child in the house. Because I'm like, my God, that's 3 little kids. And so by this point, I am in the process of adopting Deja and Devin, because their mother lost her rights. And so because I had fostered them and I had them since they were 3 weeks, I had the option. And so I said yes, because, you know, at this point, those are my kids. I love them. I've had them a year and a half. And so I was in that process of adoption. And now I have brought another little person. What's wrong?
Where the pictures at? You showed them pictures?
All the pictures. Oh,
It's
that's
right
yours.
there.
Oh, okay. So I'm gonna show. These are adoption day pictures for Deja and Devin. She wants me to show you the pictures. So my adoption day pictures for Dylan. The day we went, I had my camera, and they said I couldn't bring it upstairs. So then after the judge does all the work, he's like, "Where's the camera?" I'm like, "They told me I couldn't bring it," and so no one had a camera. So I have no pictures of my baby's gotcha day, and so this is Deja and Devin's gotcha day. This is us. Can you see it?
Yeah.
You can see it. This is our gotcha day, 2004 May. So Dylan was 2 months, and this was Devin in his little pimp daddy hat and short suit. Listen, that was an expensive little suit. I don't know what you're laughing at. And this was Mademoiselle Dejanay
My
in
hair.
her cute little suit and her little poof poof and her little purse.
My hair.
Couldn't tell her nothing. And look, she was sucking her thumb as usual. Cause and she got her fingers in her mouth right now.
I don't suck my thumb anymore.
But yeah, only because you just was ridiculous.
Because
with
you
it.
said my tooth won't, my teeth
Yes.
won't, like.
And so that was their gotcha day. So in the midst of the proceedings for Deja and Devin becoming my adopted children, Dylan came into our lives, and so now I have the 3 little people, and it was a challenge the first month. I think, yeah, because I had him and them, and I wasn't used to maneuvering. I would have my mom's car sometimes, or I would take public transportation. And one day I picked Deja and Devin up from the daycare, and we were on the bus, and it was just so much. When I came home, I was like overwhelmed, and I called and told the worker, I was like, listen, you have to come get him. I can't do it with the 3 kids. It is just too much, me by myself. I just couldn't maneuver with 3 kids at that time. And so she said, are you sure? And I said, yes. And so I washed his clothes up. And the entire time I was packing up his clothes to leave, I was sobbing. I mean, uncontrollably sobbing, because I'm like, wow, I love this little boy. And now I'm giving him back. Again, still not dealing with the loss of my own child. I still never dealt with this at that time. And so to give him up, I think had I worked through that, I would, as I reflect back, I believe it was because it would have been another loss. And I just sobbed, and I would fold all his clothes up. And so the worker came the next day to get him, and I said, I can't do it. And she said, "What?" I said, "I can't do it. I can't let him go." And she said, "Are you sure?" She said, "We can give you support. We can give you whatever you need." I said, "I'll take whatever support you offer." But mind you, I never took the support. I said, "But I can't do it. I just can't release him back into the foster care system. I'll make it. I'll do all right." And so from that point on, his mom's right was terminated very quickly. They terminated her rights very quickly. Like it was like almost a 2-year process for Deja and Devin to be adopted. Dylan's adoption went through, I think it was less than a year. That's how fast his adoption moved through. But again, I just showed you the pictures. So Dylan was what, 2 months? Let me see, March, April. He was 3 months when I had my gotcha day for Deja and Devin, and so Dylan was there. I think Miss Malikata. I think Miss Malikata came, and it was, yeah, because I believe she helped Dylan, and that was the day of their adoption, and then we embarked on a journey again for adoption for Dylan. And so his adoption went much faster, was much smoother. My sister came with me. My mom never came to my adoption days because she never wanted me to adopt. My mother never wanted me to be a mother. She was selfish in that way. And if my family ever watches that, I don't want you guys to think that I'm speaking ill of my mother. I am just speaking from my perspective of how I think that she was. And I think that my mom thought I was there for her, just for her. And I had to take care of her and be there for her. And kids and a husband would hinder that. So she never wanted me to be a mother. Never wanted me to be a mother. And so I became a mom, and I became a mom without a husband. And that is how we came to be the tribe called Harper. The Harper tribe. That's what I call us. If I sign a card, I just put the Harper tribe. And so our page is going to be a lot about our journey. Even though sometimes we might be in the kitchen and I'm talking, or we'll be up in here in my office that I'm trying to get together. My children will come on, even though Dylan probably will be not as receptive to coming on. And I don't know, because Devin no longer lives in the house with us. My office is actually his old bedroom. So, how many minutes are we?
2 hours, 7 minutes, and 51 seconds.
We're not 2 hours.
Yes, we are.
No, we're not. That hasn't been 2 hours.
Or 27 minutes?
27. I can go with 27. Oh, we 23 minutes. I can go with 23
It was an
minutes.
hour.
Anywho, you will see a lot of this. We are not professional. This is who we are. Again, this is my story, how I became the mom, and I left a whole lot out. But that's how we ended up being who we are. Tomorrow, Deja probably shares about her. I don't know what she wants to share about her. Because I don't know if we're just going to just periodically just bounce in and out about our life. But let me tell you something. This journey is going to be like, woo! One, that lady is all that. Because I would have threw them kids away a long time ago. That's what some people would say, like, oh my God, how did she do that? Like, wow. And so hopefully that you who are out there fostering and you don't know, or you're considering fostering, I hope you follow our journey, fostering and adoption. I've been more on the adoption side. Let me see. If they're 18, about to be 19, I've been their adopted mother for 16 years. And Dylan's adopted mother for 14 years. But I have been their mother nonetheless. As I always say, the only thing I didn't do was grunt for them, but I sure had to walk the floor with them. Sure had to be at every doctor's appointment, every little thing. And if I'm not there, they'll let me know, Mommy, why wasn't you there to support me? So please come back and join us and go on this journey of adoption, because adoption is a wonderful thing. I know so many people who have adopted, and everybody's story is different. My story is a lot, and other people you meet, their story was just easy breezy. So it's just like kids. Every child isn't the same. Every adoption story isn't the same. But we're here. So come join us. Come laugh with us. And some days I might cry. Who knows? But we will be sharing our journey of adoption with you guys. So I would say like, comment, share, and come back. Peace and have a wonderful day.